This is Trace Mayer from HowToVanish.com, and in this video I'm going to help you take control of your privacy. So in this video I'm going to talk about a major problem that we've got, and that's identity theft. It's a huge, fast-growing crime. 30,000 identities are stolen every day. Like organized crime, these criminal gangs, they can make a lot of money like stealing identities, and it's a lot harder to track them down. And sometimes you don't even know that your identity has been stolen for months, or years in some cases. So here are 10 privacy tips to help you to not be a victim of identity theft. First, monitor your credit card statements and your bank statements at least once a month, if not like once a week or more often. Look carefully at the statements, make sure there's no unauthorized purchases. Sometimes when your number's been compromised, your credit card number, they'll make small purchases here and there to see whether you notice them or not. So before they'll make a larger purchase. So, just monitor, make sure there's nothing going on there. 2, verify sources before providing anybody with personal details. I mean, this makes a lot of just common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. This concept of phishing, that's where somebody pretends to be somebody else, or they send an email saying that they're the bank and they need you to verify personal information. And it's coming everywhere, like Facebook, online games, emails, phone calls. Like if anybody contacts you with any reason and claims that they're from a well-known company, don't necessarily trust them right off the bat. Verify that they're actually from that company. Like go find a phone number on the company's official URL or domain name and make sure that you're really talking with a legit representative. Number 3, do whatever you can to protect that social security number. Keep it in a safe place at home. Don't just hand it out willy-nilly. Don't give it out unless you have to on any types of applications or at the hospital or things like that. One thing I've heard some people do is they inadvertently transpose numbers. So if the number's 683, then they might put 638. So, don't necessarily do that on purpose, particularly with any type of intent to commit fraud. But sometimes it does happen inadvertently, particularly when the other party doesn't necessarily have any need to know that number. So that's one thing some people do. I don't necessarily recommend it. I just flat out tell people, I don't want to give you my social. And another thing I do to help keep that secret is I'll use a New Mexico LLC or some other LLC, and I'll get an EIN number, an employer identification number, and that's like the tax ID number. So instead of giving somebody my name and my social, I'll give them the LLC's name and the LLC's EIN number. And that way they have the information they need in order to file a 1099, but at the same time, it's a much more disposable number than my own personal social security number. Number 4, cancel credit or debit cards that you don't necessarily use on a regular basis and that you don't necessarily need. Some people think, it might hurt your credit score, but may not. Also, if you're paying annual fees, why pay annual fees if you're not using the cards? So, that's one thing you can do. And particularly if you don't use them and you don't check those accounts on a regular basis, who knows? You might find you owe $10,000 on them because someone went and bought a bunch of TVs without your permission. So that's something to keep in mind. Number 5, always choose strong passwords, especially if you're using encryption. Don't make the password cat, because it's very easy to crack that using just brute force techniques. So if you use really strong passwords, then it makes it a lot more difficult to guess those passwords. And that's what happens a lot of times. It's people that are very close to the identity theft victims who are actually perpetrating the crime because they know their birth dates already and they know their favorite colors and things like that. And don't necessarily write their passwords on a yellow post-it note and put it on the computer. Just common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people do that. Number 6, protect all your computers and your mobile devices with passwords. And use strong passwords. Use ones that are difficult. And don't necessarily set the same password for all your devices. And another thing you can do is, especially with smartphones, set them to automatically require a password to get into them and to turn off or to prompt for a password after a minute or two. It might be a little inconvenient, but that way if you leave the phone on the table or something and like walk away, that someone can't just get in there and see like all your contacts really easily. Here's another one. I don't really think it's all that needed or useful, but you could consider investing in identity theft coverage for number 7. Yeah, that's like a form of insurance. But if you're doing all of this preventative privacy hygiene, like, I don't know if it really adds all that much value. But they'll watch for stuff and they'll alert you if things happen. But you can always file like a freeze on your credit report that'll stop activity. So, you can invest in the coverage. I don't necessarily think it's all that good a deal, but it's an option. Number 8, keep a watchful eye on your mail. Anybody can just like go down the neighborhood and like root around in people's mailboxes. I mean, yeah, it's a federal crime and it's a big deal, but like how often are they going to get caught? And so I like to keep my mail extremely secure. A super ninja trick is to use a secure ghost address, something like Earth class mail or having a receptionist that receives your mail. And then you can access it through the cloud. And when you're done with your mail, make sure that you shred it, or, if you scan it and stuff like that, like encrypt it with TrueCrypt if you're using things like Dropbox or sending it in email, stuff like that. Number 9, do everything you can to protect your wallet or your purse. You'd be surprised, there's a lot of information in your wallet, especially if you've got like a driver's license. So there's like name, address, birth date. Then you got some credit cards, a debit card. Now they're able to see like bank accounts. So, just protect that wallet. One thing I like to do, I take a scan of all the contents of my wallet and then I encrypt it and stick it in the cloud. That way, if I'm traveling and get mugged or I lose my wallet or something, I can access it. And that's also really helpful for establishing identity. Like if you need to go and get a new passport at the embassy or something, you're like, yeah, see, here's my old passport. And they're able to bring it up, and it can just make life a lot easier. Number 10, and this goes along with number 9, just photocopy all your debit and credit cards. I only carry 2 credit cards with me and then passport card and a driver's license, but I have a lot of credit cards. I have a lot of credit cards with different entities like LLCs, things like that. And so if you keep a scan or a photocopy of all of those in a safe place, like in a TrueCrypt encrypted file, and then stored in the cloud like Dropbox, you can always get to them and see the numbers and see who you need to call for customer service or canceling them, things like that. And so that's really helpful. So if you implement these 10 tips, just these 10 forms of privacy hygiene, then hopefully it'll reduce the probability that you'll become one of those 30,000 people a day who are the victims of identity theft. Hey everybody, this has been Trace Mayer. Thanks for listening. Don't be shy, we've got an emailing list at howtovanish.com and a free YouTube channel, howtovanish.tv. Go there and get yourself signed up, and we'll keep you up to date on everything we do to help you take control of your privacy.